Hello and welcome to the YYC Soccer Podcast. My name is Jason Kmet and my co-host is Scott Strasser. Hey, Scott.
Hello, Jason. How are you today?
In the non-soccer world, it was the first day of school, and I don't know. That's a big day around here. So it's, I guess, a sign summer's over.
I suppose it is, and yeah, that would be a big day for you. But how did it go? Did you get your daughters off to school on time?
Oh yeah, it all worked out pretty well overall. So they seem to be pretty happy with things. So it is sort of the marking of time for sure that, that's, like I said, it's just the shorter days and school starting. It means we're hitting a different season for sure.
Well, we turned our furnace back on yesterday. It got down to like 16 or 17 in some rooms in our house. So it was chilly, wasn't it, when it was raining and windy all day on Wednesday, I think it was. But anyway, I know we're not here to talk about the weather in Calgary. We're here to talk about soccer in Calgary, aren't we?
So if you are a new listener, Scott, what is the YYC Soccer Podcast all about?
The YYC Soccer Podcast focuses on soccer in Calgary at the amateur, collegiate, and professional levels. We talk about the teams and the players from Calgary's soccer community, all the way from the grassroots, youth, and amateur leagues, up to the university and professional teams and players.
This week, our topics are going to include some U Sports action. We're going to talk about the upcoming Crowchild Classic, and we're going to do a bit of a review of how the first weekend of the men's season went. And we're also going to talk about Cavalry. We'll talk about their match last week against Pacific and their upcoming match against Valour. And we've got some interviews this week, Scott. Why don't we talk about who our interviews are?
Yeah, we had quite a few interviews this week. We wanted to talk to some players and coaches from the two teams that will be competing in the Crowchild Classic this Saturday, which would include, of course, the University of Calgary Dinos and Mount Royal University Cougars. So we talked to Caden Rogozinski. He's the captain of the Cougars and kind of a starting center back. We also talked to Ryan Gyaki, who's the Cougars head coach. And then to balance it out a bit, I know, Jason, earlier this week, you talked to the Dinos head coach, Ramon Mifflin, who also has a connection to the MRU Cougars.
Yeah, a former assistant coach. So we have a lot of discussion about the upcoming matches there and with the Cavalry one. So I think we might as well get on to it.
My name is Mo Gander, and you're listening to the YYC Soccer Podcast.
Yeah, so as mentioned, the men's division, Prairie Division in the Canada West Conference kicked off last weekend on Saturday, and both Calgary teams were in action. The Dinos got their season off to a great start by beating the University of Saskatchewan 3-0, with goals from Owen Antoniuk, Joey Plenzik, and Gianmarco Plenzik, his brother. And at the same time, thereabouts, Mount Royal University was battling to a goalless draw with the University of Lethbridge Pronghorns. And then the next day on Sunday, these teams actually just switched opponents. So MRU took on the University of Saskatchewan at home, and the Dinos hosted Lethbridge. And MRU came out on top Sunday with a 2-1 win over the University of Saskatchewan, and the Dinos, similarly to how the Cougars did the day before, battled to a goalless draw with Lethbridge.
Yeah, so a good start to the men's U Sports season, and both teams ended up with 4 points.
Yeah, which really sets up nicely for Saturday's Crowchild Classic. I took a few notes down because, as mentioned, I did make it out Sunday for these games. I saw the first hour of the Dinos game, and then on my way home, I swung by Mount Royal and caught the second half of their game against Saskatchewan. So observations from Sunday, definitely the two players to me that stood out from the Dinos were Gianmarco Plenzik and Owen Antoniuk. Owen Antoniuk, we've talked about. He had a really good season in League One Alberta with Foothills, scoring lots of goals. So not too much of a surprise that he was going to carry those performances into the fall. But yeah, Gianmarco Plenzik, really impressive on the ball and trying to make things happen. And I didn't see his goal on Saturday, but obviously he's going to be an offensive threat for the U of C this season.
Then when you went over to Mount Royal, something I had no idea about, but they're playing on an alternate field. Is that right?
Yeah, they're playing on the field that is next to their stadium field. So a little bit disappointing, apparently, because of how late their season ran last year, with them playing all the way into, I believe, early November. They really damaged the turf, and apparently it wasn't fixed up this summer because they're playing on the adjacent field, which isn't as nice and doesn't have the bleachers or the seats. So it feels a little bit more makeshift, but it didn't stop them from playing well against Saskatchewan. They took a 2-0 lead. I didn't see the first goal. It was before I got there, but David Dudek made it 2-0 with a really nice strike from outside the box early into the second half. Cougars were really controlling the game, but Saskatchewan did get forward a couple of times, and on one of those occasions, they managed to earn a penalty kick, and they made it 2-1 from that shot. But MRU was mostly in control, and it never really seemed in doubt that they would pull away with the 3 points. As we've talked about before, they're the defending champions in Canada West. They clearly are a good team. And while they've lost quite a few good players from last year, they still have most of last year's core. I think I'm predicting another strong campaign from MRU as a result of that continuity. Lots of new faces. So there is a little bit of a rebuild going on for the Cougars.
And then, we have this weekend on Saturday evening, we've got the Crowchild Classic up at on campus at U of C. So always a big matchup, all the big rivalry game. It's, I guess you would refer to it as a derby, right in within the city here. So pretty exciting. And we were able to get a bunch of comments from various people here about that upcoming game and about the season in general.
All right, so let's start off with Ryan Gyaki, who I talked to after the final whistle of their game against Saskatchewan on Sunday. So as a result, there is a little bit of background noise. You can hear the music that was playing after the game, but this is what Ryan has to say. Thoughts on performances this weekend, first of all?
Yeah, I thought our back to Canada West, and it's always an incredibly competitive league. I think for the parity that all the teams have and the effort that all the coaching staffs put in, always creates a really intense match with different tactics that that you're forced to solve. So I thought they were both very different games, but very exciting. Definitely for opening weekend. We're going a little bit more, trying some more things this year. I think yesterday 5 guys had their debut. Today we had a couple debuts and starts, full debuts. And a lot of young players compared to what we've had in the past. So solid core with a lot of young players coming in to fill the role. So that's, last year we had 4th years or 5th years subbing out for 4th years. And this year we've got 4th years subbing out for 1st years. So overall very happy with the attitude, the application of what we've been trying to do in training and what we tell them or what we as a group kind of come up with before the game. So overall very happy. Just great to be back in such a competitive league.
Were both games on this pitch this weekend?
Yes.
What's wrong with the main one?
Just some damage from last year with the playing so late into the season and hosting, and there's a lot of damage, and we're not quite there yet. So that's disappointing from the experience of the game, the atmosphere of the game, but especially for us from some of the things that we've worked on. We've lost a lot of yardage. So when that changes things a little bit for how we play.
Are these smaller nets too? A little bit?
No, I don't think so. The posts are smaller.
Oh yeah, the width of the posts, but the overall,
it should be pretty close.
Okay. You talk about the core still being here from last year, but there are lots of departures, right? I think David and Benedict.
Yeah.
I don't think Nico Moroniak is going to play for you guys.
No. Some huge names for us, some core players that have been part of building year after year. So big departures. It's always sad from a personal level and a relationship level, but also from what we do on the field. So lots to work on, but exciting young players today. So,
but you got Caden Rogozinski coming back. I think Aiden DeMoulin is back, right?
Yeah,
so
he'll be back.
How
Ruben, Kemsley,
Miguel,
our back line, our midfield, very solid. So starting to.
So how much do you look to those players for leadership for the youngsters coming in?
Yeah, it's impossible without it. You can coach all you want without experience and talent and knowledge of the game. yeah, no matter how good you are at sessions or whatever, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You need that experience, that understand seeing game out like that, how that's done. So
Next one is about the status of being defending champions in Canada West. I mean, how does that feel? Does it feel nice, or does it feel like there's a target on your back this year?
Great question. I think, it's always a great motivational piece as an opposing coach. I've been there. We have new coaches in the league this year, so there's a lot of motivation from them and energy to succeed. So I think there's probably a bit of a target.
I don't know.
But I think, for the past 2 years, we've been playing well and competing and winning the Prairie. So I think there's a bit of that anyways. But yeah, that's last season. So
Okay.
it doesn't have any value this year.
For sure. No. Crowchild Classic is coming up next for you.
Against Ramon.
I was going to say, against Ramon, I noticed Moel Gandor is on the coaching staff.
Our whole staff is there. Logan, yeah.
Yeah, Logan.
Chris McKegg was once with us as well.
That I didn't know.
Yes.
But all right. So, I mean, that's got to be exciting and
great.
Early into the season. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be a big crowd.
Yeah.
How excited are you guys for that one?
I think it's going to be wonderful, and it's very in the spirit of what university football is, very competitive, but a lot of joy to be able to compete at at this level. I think there's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be just a great experience. And I think, at this level, it's important for players to learn to compete over the white line, but then care for each other away from once the game's over. We're all here to push each other forward. And I think that's something that's very beautiful in the university game. So to have a bunch of guys that we've all coached in the youth before playing against us, and to have almost our entire staff, or a big part of what was our staff for a decade,
right,
coaching against us, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So we'll definitely be going to see each other after the game.
We'll move on to UC Dinos head coach. I was able to interview him here this week and talk a little bit more about this season and the upcoming games. So here's Ramon Mifflin.
I'd like to welcome Ramon Mifflin back to the podcast. We had him on earlier this year when he was head coach of Calgary Blizzard and their League One men's team. And now we have him back as the head coach of the University of Calgary Dinos men's team. Welcome to the podcast, Ramon.
Good morning, Jason. And again, thank you for having me again. And new kind of, new hat I'm wearing now with University of Calgary, but super excited and it's been a good start so far.
Were you happy with performances this weekend?
Yeah, was very happy. It was a great start, against Saskatchewan in a very tough game. The boys were able to, get those high energy levels that an opener requires. And we came out flying with 2 early goals in the first half and we're able to carry off that momentum and seal a 3-0 win in the second half. And then the next day, with obviously the second day of a 2-game weekend, is always tough. And Lethbridge came to battle. They were very physical, but we matched that intensity. We had a good first half. I thought they got the better of us in the second half, but in the last 10, we made a little bit of run to win the game, but it didn't happen. So we were content with the point. 2 clean sheets and a successful opening 2 games for us.
Why don't we talk a little bit about your roster and who you've got on the team right now? Maybe we could do a bit of a breakdown position by position, so we have an idea of who some of your main players are, starting players.
Yeah, the core. When I came into this group, I knew the core was going to be strong. We have our captain, Marco Plenzik, who's excellent with Soli and James Taylor Greco in the middle. Very good midfield, very, good technicians. Up top, we have a new player on the wing, Kimia Kasanda, who's been excellent, and Spencer from the Cavalry U20 team. And a new addition also has been FA up top with Dominic. The attack, the middle has been great. I think the heart and soul also of the team with Nahum, who was with me in League One, and Joey Plenzik in the back. Very good center backs, and Milan on the other flank with Dewey, who are returners. They've been very good. It's a nice core. It's a strong team. And now it's just a little bit of just embracing the change, the philosophy. We're looking forward to a good season this year.
What are you changing up with the team this year? How is it different, and like how has the adjustment been going?
Yeah, I think Dinos in the past were a very efficient team with a more vertical game, right? They played to their strengths, and And there's no right or wrong with different philosophies. They were just a very direct, very vertical team. And we've been trying to do is just play a little bit more, out of the back, a little bit more, being just clean and tidy with, linking up passes from the back four into the middle and into the front three. So it's required a lot of, possession-based games, a lot of treat the ball well kind of philosophy, right? And be confident, be able to want the ball playing out of the back and secure the ball going forward. So it's been a bit of an adjustment, but we have the players to do that. So it's not any concern to me. The boys have done a great job so far, and now we prepare for a big game this Saturday.
Yeah, and I want to talk about that game this Saturday. So matchup against Mount Royal. Like, how does it feel for you right now? You were with the Cougars for quite a long time, and now you're with the Dinos. How does that feel? Maybe it'll be stranger when you actually get onto the field, but what are your thoughts about that?
It's obviously it's my past, right? And a lot of good friends, a lot of good relationships that I built over the years at MRU, and we had a lot of success winning Canada West last year, and now we're frenemies, right? So it doesn't change my relationships and my the love I had for that program, and now I'm the leader at UFC and looking forward to it. It's Ryan and I, we've been talking about things, and there's a lot of respect. But that being said, we're both highly competitive coaches, so we know we're going to go out there and battle. We know we're going to put our front foot forward and both of us are going to try to get the result. And for us, the boys are motivated. They're very they're ready. They're ready to defend also our pitch on Saturday at Dino Field, and hopefully it'll be a good entertainment for the fans in a good battle, which is that what we all want, because it's a good league, two good teams going at it, and let just the best team win that night.
We noticed that you brought in one of your former players with Mount Royal, and also I guess with the Blizzard, Mo Elgander as an assistant coach. What does he bring to your coaching staff?
When I came into Dinos, I was looking to bring a new motivated coach that wanted the opportunity to kind of have a player's eye view of the game, right? And Mo, obviously a very successful player at the university level, he was looking for an opportunity. He reached out to me. He was with me, with Blizzard League One over the summer, and I didn't hesitate. I know Mo brings a lot to the table. He gets to play with the team. He gives a lot of good insights of the game. Works with our striker and our wingers a lot. Just very active, very vocal, very passionate. So he's been a great addition. I'm not going to lie, and he is helped me a lot in this transition period. With the Dinos, and I think he's got a bright future in him. He knows the game. He sees the game well. He reads the game well. And he's just craving that opportunity, right? So I'm glad we were able to provide that for him. We'll just he'll continue his journey, and hopefully it'll be a good one with us.
What would you say the Dinos as a team, what's the overall goal for the season, and what will success look like at the end of the year?
I think last year they came fourth in the Prairies in Canada West and made playoffs, right? So I think at least that's the goal, is to be top four, maybe hopefully top three, and make playoffs again. I think we've got the personnel for it. Yeah, I think we have the passion for it. I think we're healthy right now. There's a couple big teams in our conference, and a lot of good, really strong teams. So we believe after the start we had, now we believe we can compete against these teams and make a run at it. So I think top three and maybe in a good playoff position to play a team we can compete against would be something we're thriving for.
Do you have any messages to Dinos fans as you continue to embark on this new season, and with the big Crowchild Classic matchup coming up here this weekend?
Yeah, no, just come out and support the program. It's a good team. They look good. It's a very prestigious school with a great football program. Just come out and support us, and we will entertain the crowd and provide some good football on the pitch. So We're excited about the weekend. We're excited about the Crowchild Classic. It's always a big game within the city, and hopefully we'll have a lot of students come and support the team, and hopefully we'll get a good result out of it.
And best of luck on Saturday and for the rest of the season.
Okay, thank you very much.
So in addition to the two coaches, we also spoke actually just before we started recording this episode with Caden Rogozinski. He's the captain for the Cougars, but he also recently spent time with Cavalry FC. He was one of their U Sports draft picks. And while he didn't get to feature for the professional team this year, it was a great learning experience for him. And he talked a little bit about that experience as well. I'd like to welcome Caden Rogozinski to the podcast. Caden is a member of the Mount Royal University Cougars men's soccer team, and he was also a member of Cavalry FC this season. Caden, thanks for coming on our podcast.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
Saw some of your second game of the season on Sunday. You came away with a 2-1 win over Saskatchewan, and the day before that, you guys had a hard-fought goalless draw with the Lethbridge Pronghorns. So 2 games, 1 weekend into the season. How are you feeling from the Cougars standpoint?
I would say so far so good. We understand that every game in U Sports is going to be difficult, especially with the double headers every weekend, playing 90 minutes back to back. And obviously each team, for the most part, is improving. I feel what was most important was to get those 2 games out of the way. And now that we've gained some traction and going forward, we're going to be much better off. I mean, props to Lethbridge. They were a much better side this year. They got a new coach and applied a new structure against us. And to be fair, it worked well. We created chances. We're just unlucky to score. And then speaking on the Saskatchewan game, it was good from us. As you guys may have seen, we conceded a penalty from a handball. But apart from that, they honestly didn't create many chances, and we had the majority of the control during the games. But yeah, looking forward to the UFC game this weekend. It should be quite good.
How does it feel to be coming into this season as the defending champs?
I'd say there's a bit of pressure there, but at the end of the day, we will always have something to prove. Looking back on it, it's something to be proud of and something to strive forward to this season. I think Ryan's done an excellent job at recruiting the right personnel for our team. And we have good chemistry, and I honestly feel that we could do it again. It's just a matter of showing up every day and keeping our head down and continuing to put in the work. And yeah, but looking back on it, it was a great achievement, but I'm looking forward to this season because I know as a team we'll do very well.
Yeah, you guys look to be clicking on Sunday, and I couldn't help but notice lots of new faces this year, Caden. Obviously, you guys saw some key departures after 2023. Guys like David Schaefer and Benedict Mel, and I believe Nico Moroniak won't be coming back, but lots of new faces. So how do you feel the new players have integrated? And do you have any kind of new guys in mind that you think fans and observers should keep an eye on?
Yeah, as I mentioned, Ryan's always done an excellent job at recruiting the right people for our team. And honestly, I've been extremely impressed with all of our new recruits that have came in. These past few years, we've really focused on building an environment that supports new people coming in and just working more as a collective. And they've honestly been doing great. Buiju has been great. Isaac. We have quite a few new recruits, so I wouldn't be able to name them all for you, but honestly, very impressed with them and their work rate. During preseason, we were able to give them lots of minutes on the field, and honestly, they're going to be game changers for us this season.
You mentioned a bit earlier, and I think one of the big focuses we wanted to talk to you about was the Crowchild Classic this upcoming weekend. How does it feel to face your rivals with the added bit that your former assistant coach, Ramon Mifflin, is now in charge over there?
Yeah, Ramon's a great guy and a great coach. I feel that him going to UFC honestly was a great thing for their team. I feel like that has allowed them to play a different style, and Ramon has brought many aspects that are going to benefit them this year. Obviously, speaking on the rivalry, it's huge. We know that, my team and their team are going to be up for it. It's always exciting. It's a thriller. I know it's going to be difficult, and it could be a close game. We never know. But at the end of the day, they are a good side, and we need to respect them because you never know. In U Sports, it's such a tough league that either team could walk away with points.
Both teams coming in on 4 points, I think, even adds to the intrigue, even though it is very early in the season.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're all drawn up right now.
Caden, I know you guys are following up a historic year, right? 2023 was obviously special for everybody. How difficult is it to follow up from something so historic? And what would you say the goals are for the Cougars in 2024?
I mean, after you achieve something so big, there's obviously that pressure from the outside, but honestly, just, being a part of the team, being the captain, I don't feel like there's much pressure. This will be my last year, and honestly, I'm so thankful and happy to be able to show up every day and play alongside these guys. And honestly, Ryan, again, has done an amazing job at continuing to keep us motivated and aspire to achieve even greater things. So in saying that, one of our goals, or a few of our goals, would be to win the Prairie Division again, make it to that Canada West final, and not just make it, but also win it, go on to nationals once again, and win it all.
Over this past spring and summer, you spent the last several months with Cavalry FC as a draft pick. What was that experience like? And what do you think you gained or learned from spending the earlier part of the season with the pros?
Yeah, it was great to be drafted by them again. Even before I was drafted, I would usually, since I am from Calgary, I would go and do preseason with them. I've also played foothills when I was younger, so have a good relationship with Tommy and his brother Jay Wielden. But being with them for the entire season, or at least the majority of it, this year has honestly been a great experience. Because in years prior, I would just more than likely be with them until April. And then at that point, I would need to go on and do something else. But being able to be a part of them for, like I said, the majority of the season has been great for me. I've learned many, many things just being in the professional environment and understanding the standards and expectations they have of one another, the accountability aspect, and not just having individual leaders on a team, but the entirety of it. Not just learning stuff on the field, but outside the field as well. Just being a better person, and a lot of the tactical side of. I've been fortunate enough to play alongside some of the best center backs in the league, like Dan Klopp, and learning from them has taught me a lot. Not just the basic tactical stuff, but as Dan would always speak about, like the dark arts. Just learning little tips and tricks from them has been brilliant, and the amount of video we would do looking at games and preparing for opponents, I've definitely taken a lot of that with me heading into my MRU season.
What do you feel like your strongest individual qualities or attributes are as a center back, and what do you feel you contribute to MRU's success on the field?
I would say the two that stand out for me is my one-on-one defending and just my physical presence on the field, whether that be strength and my speed. I know others have said that about me, but I feel it is a strong suit of mine. And speaking on last year, we also broke the record for clean sheets. I think it was 11 we had. My major contribution is not letting goals in. Being a defender, you should take pride in blocking shots, denying opportunities for the other team, and just making sure I continue to lead my team to do great things.
You made a comment earlier that this is going to be your last year at MRU. So looking ahead, what are your goals and aspirations for your soccer career beyond, finishing up strong this year and having a good year at Mount Royal?
So I have my Polish passport, so I'm hoping towards the end of the season, I could potentially look at opportunities abroad. I still want to continue, and I aspire to be a professional footballer one day. This past season, I guess with Cavalry, or this current season, has really ignited that flame inside of me, knowing that I am almost there. And I've had the continuous support around me from my friends and family, and they believe in me. And that's a goal of mine, is just to play professional, whether it be at the CPL level or even further. I just want to continue with it. And I guess we'll see when the draft comes around and when I speak to my agent, what opportunities will present themselves later.
So yeah, now that we've talked about the U Sports men's season, just before we started recording here on Thursday night to the women's season. So we had the first match, Mount Royal against University of Victoria.
Yeah, and this looked like it was quite the barn burner way to start the season, with University of Victoria beating MRU 4-3. So fans were treated to lots of goals in this one.
Really, none of the other teams play over this weekend, and the women's season really starts in earnest next weekend.
the Dinos women will kick off their season on September 7th and 8th. They'll be hosting the two teams from Manitoba, those being the University of Winnipeg and the University of Manitoba. Interesting note for the Dinos is that they'll be missing their captain this season. Sophia Di Giacomo, who played for Blizzard during the League One season, suffered an unfortunate ACL tear, and as a result will miss the entirety of the 2024 campaign. So Dinos will have to look for leadership from some other sources this year.
The state season will be starting up soon here too. Their first matches are next weekend. They're playing Red Deer and Lethbridge. Is that right, Scott?
Yeah, I believe Red Deer on September 7th and then Lethbridge on September 8th. And the way ACAC soccer works is the men and the women play the same opponents on the same days. So kind of double headers between the men and the women on both Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, so we'll keep an eye on what happens there as well.
This is Dan Klum, and this is the YYC Soccer Podcast.
All right, let's talk about what's new with Cavalry FC. First thing we'll do is we'll recap last week's match. They had a matchup against Pacific on Saturday afternoon at Spruce Meadows, and they came away with a victory.
Yeah, eventually. Hey, this looked like it was about to end 0-0, but early into stoppage time, Cavalry managed to grab the all-important goal from a familiar name, Dan Klomp getting his 4th goal of the season to earn Cavalry their 5th win in a row.
How many goals has Dan Klomp scored with his feet? Like almost all his goals are headers. So this one was without. It was a non-header.
Yeah, and it was right on the goal line or very close to the goal line, so kind of a tap in. But shortly before that, he had actually what for him would be a very easy headed opportunity, and he headed the ball from just a few yards out or right off of Pacific's goalkeeper. So he had some amends to make after that, and he did it in classic Dan Klomp fashion. But yeah, what were your thoughts on this game as a whole? Because it was interesting. Like Cavalry, if you look at the statistics, I mean, just as a result of the second half mostly, they dominated in shots and possession. But if you were watching the first half of the game, you probably wouldn't have thought that would be the outcome.
Like I watched this game on One Soccer, and I believe Nigel Reed said near the end of the half something to the effect of, if you had no idea where these teams were in the table, you would not think that Cavalry was way above Pacific. Pacific acquitted itself quite nicely in that first half, with a very makeshift lineup. But then once it got into the second half, Cavalry just kept building and building and building the pressure. And I think it would have made me crazy standing on the sidelines, on being one of the Cavalry coaches, because they were getting so close, and there would be a real close call, and then there'd be a really great save by the Pacific keeper, and it just kept going on and starting to wonder if it was ever going to happen. But then they had 9 minutes of extra time, I believe, and it didn't go that far into it was only in the first couple minutes of added time where the goal was scored. But yeah, I don't know. I just found it like, it just seemed like it was eventually the dam was going to have to burst.
Yeah, this game had a lot of context I feel is worth mentioning. So as you talked about, Pacific had a fairly makeshift lineup. They had a really important game a couple of days after this, the Canadian Championship semifinal second leg against Vancouver Whitecaps. So it seemed like they were resting a lot of their key players, and they didn't even bring a very big squad to Calgary for this one. They only had 16 players, so 5 on the bench. They started one of our former podcast guests, didn't they?
Yeah, and I thought he really played well. Christian Greco-Taylor, first CPL start, and he was matched up against Ali Musi, and that's a tough assignment. And I thought he did really well. He stuck with him for the most part and contained him. Didn't allow him to score any goals earlier in the match. I thought he did really well. In fact, I think we were commenting back and forth. It was like, he should play more for Pacific maybe.
Yeah. He hasn't had a lot of opportunities to get playing time this season. I think they have some good depth in his position out on the wing, but at fullback. But no, he acquitted himself well, and not only did he defend Musi, quite capably, but he also got forward on occasion and whipped some balls in and made some clever passes. So kudos to Christian for showing Pacific's coaching staff what he's capable of against a very strong team. One thing I'd mention is that Pacific looked gassed at the end. Did you have that assessment as well, where in the last 15 or 20 minutes it just seemed like they lost their freshness and Cavalry were able to overwhelm them? Yeah.
They were holding on in every way imaginable. Like, they seemed tired out, and they just seemed like, they were just defending for their lives. You know what I mean? And that's why it just seemed like, how is Cavalry not scored yet? You know what I mean? Like, it just seemed like it just kept going and going there for, the last, I don't know, I'd say, maybe 20 minutes or so. And it just seemed like, how are they holding on? And eventually Cavalry did score.
And I was thinking, like, Pacific is really demoralized at the moment because they are now, 6 or 7 games without a win in the league. I mean, their last games before this one were 3-0 loss to Atletico, a 1-0 loss to Vancouver FC, a 1-1 draw with York United, a 3-0 loss to Valour, a 2-1 loss to Pacific. And before that, in the Cup, they lost to Vancouver 1-0. And before that, it was a 1-0 loss to Atletico. So they've been losing a lot, and they really haven't been scoring. I think I saw somewhere they've scored like 5 or 6 goals or less in the last 10 games. Like, their attack is really struggling at the moment, and I'm sure there's a lot of frustration creeping in.
But for Cavalry, they just keep rolling right now. And now, as it stands, they're in second place for the moment, at least.
Yeah, we're tied for second at the moment. It's pretty interesting in the table, as we talked about last week. The top 4 have started to pull away. Cavalry and Atletico are both on 33 points. Forge is on 35 points. And then York United in 4th place are just a point behind Cavalry and Atletico. So there's still lots of opportunity. I think there's still a lot of jostling to be happening in the top 4 as the final 8 match days are played. And there is a little bit of separation now between the top 4 and the bottom 4, because Vancouver FC is 6 points back of York. And then Valour is a full 6 points back of them. So right now the playoffs seem almost set, and I wouldn't be surprised if the teams that are in the playoff positions right now are still in the playoffs 5 or 6 or 7 weeks from now. But the interesting thing will be to see who finishes where.
Yeah, definitely. And with everything being so tight, I think it's anybody's guess at this point. So now it's time to look ahead, and the next match is on Friday. So probably today when you're listening to this, another match at Spruce Meadows where they're going to take on Valour FC from Winnipeg.
Yeah, 6th place Valour at the moment. They've struggled for wins, but they're doing okay. I mean, if you look at their form table, I think they've won 3 of their last 5 games, or 2 of their last 5, but they drew 1. I can't remember exactly. I didn't write it down, but they're kind of on and off, hot and cold. But you have to figure Cavalry, with the form that they're on and the fact that they're playing at home, they're definitely gearing up for another good game, I feel.
For sure. And yeah, I think, you got to go in looking at them as being favorites and stuff. And they're in really good form. Injury wise, we don't really know. I wasn't able to get to the pregame press conference online, but I got a feeling that Mile Henry injury is not good.
No, he looked pretty upset when he hobbled off the pitch. So hopefully it's not serious or a reoccurrence of the injury that kept him out for such a big chunk of this season. And he can be back playing for the Cavs soon, because he has been a linchpin for their offense.
He's really made a difference. So hopefully he'll be back relatively soon. One other Cavalry note, and I saw this mentioned in Northern Tribune, and I just thought I would throw it out there just for a discussion between us here, Scott. Did you see that article they put in there about Goteh Ntignee?
I did, yeah. And he's one of those players where every once in a while I think, has he played yet? And I check his I Google him, and yeah, he just hasn't been able to see the pitch for that club in France that he signed for last year for big money move, FC NSC. So it really hasn't worked out for him, unfortunately.
So here's the question that I don't know the answer to. And, I went back and looked because I couldn't remember exactly the wording of it. But in the release where Cavalry said that he was being transferred, it was originally stated that he was being loaned to that team. And then with the idea that he was going to be purchased like as a transfer for the 2024-25 season. So, I'm kind of curious, like, did that purchase actually go through, or is he still possibly still have some connection and his rights being held by the Cavs? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, but I think it's really interesting.
Yeah, it's worth asking the club at this point for some clarity on that matter, because I'm sure Cavalry fans would be happy to see him back, right? Like he was a really strong player for them in the first half of 2023. And when he got transferred, it felt a little bit like when Arab and Pepple left in 2022, and also Victor Latourie, right? Like two of the strongest players that season leaving and then impacting the team thereafter. But no, Goteh Ntignee was really exciting. He was obviously a wide player, and he used his speed and his dribbling to his advantage almost every game to create, decent scoring chances.
Yeah, I think the Cavs lineup has looked, pretty good of late, but when you have a situation like that, like I'm always fascinated with player movement and that sort of thing anyway. But yeah, just the idea that it's theoretically possible that his rights might still be held by the Cavs. And if the French team doesn't want him anymore, if he's still under contract with Cavalry, that would be quite something. Thank you for listening to the YYC Soccer Podcast. You can have this podcast downloaded to your device as soon as it becomes available by subscribing on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or other platforms. Check our website at yyscsoccer.com, where you can look through our episode archive and find other options to listen, including our YouTube channel. We also have links to buy Scott's book online. And you can leave a question or comment in the Contact Us section of our website. You can also interact with us on social media, such as Twitter or Instagram, where our username is YYCSoccer403. Thanks for listening.